Hi, fourth graders. Welcome to your writing lesson for today. Today, our learning target is that by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to revise your draft using what we call a cardboard character lens. So let's go ahead and begin so we can find out what that means and how we're going to do that. So first and foremost, some of you have already finished your drafts, and that's awesome. The rest of you are working really hard to finish your narrative stories. So we're in a great spot right now. So for those of you who are done working on your stories, you're ready to start revise. Those of you who aren't quite done yet, you're almost there, and you'll start following these revision steps once you finish your writing, once you finish your drafting. So I want to remind you that even our best writers, even when we work our absolute hardest and you are the best writer ever, you still need to stop after drafting and go back and revise. Everyone needs to take that step from drafting to revising. And I want to teach you that revision means just what that word says. That prefix re means to do again, and that vision means to see. So we're just looking at our draft again. We're taking a second look and a third look and a fourth look at our draft just to make sure that we have done everything that we can do as writers. Published authors do this too, and we're going to take a look a little bit more at that next week. So revision is just a step in the writing process that everyone goes through, no matter whether you think that you are the best writer ever or if you're not great at writing. Everyone has to do that. Okay? So when we write these longer pieces, like we did with this narrative story, we did some revising along the way. We would stop and take a look at our opening, our lead, and then we would revise it. We stopped and took a look at our ending, and we did some revising. So we did a lot of revising along the way. But now it's time to start revising our paper through different lenses, revising our draft through different lenses. And basically what I mean when I say that is that you're focusing on specific things when you reread it. So here are just a few lenses that I'm going to talk about, but really there's lots of different lenses. The first one is the cardboard character lens, and that's one that we're going to focus on today. So I'm going to talk about that one in just a minute. But the sound lens, that's when you're rereading your paper and you're just making sure that everything sounds right. I suggest that when you're revising your paper using the sound lens, you read your paper out loud. Maybe even record yourself reading it out loud. I know that when I conference with my students, sometimes they come to me and they read their paper thinking that it is ready to be published. They've done all of their revising, but then as they're reading it out loud, they realize that there's a mistake that they made that they didn't catch when they were revising it on their own. So it's important to sometimes just take a moment to read your paper out loud. And the deeper meaning lens is someplace where maybe you can do some more elaboration. You can tell some more about a part in your story. Did you get your thought across? Did you get that meaning across? Do you need to elaborate more or add more detail to that area? But like I said, today's focus is on the cardboard character lens. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means. This cardboard character lens is just what we talked about when we focus on characters, that we need to make sure that our characters are realistic. They need to have both positive and negative traits. We talked about this when we talked about characters. No character is perfect. Even if they appear perfect on the outside, no character is perfect. And so we don't want to give our characters the feeling of just being cardboard, not being real. We need to make them feel real to our readers. So if we make them too good to be true, they start to feel fake because we know that no one's really like that. And so we need to make sure that we're taking the time to make our characters feel real. And even if that was your intention in the beginning and you're like, oh, I did this already whenever I focused on my characters and I wrote down their internal and external traits, you probably did in your mind, but you need to reread your paper to make sure that you've conveyed that to your reader through your story. So even though you're like, oh, I already know that this character does have these negative traits, did you talk about those in your story? Did you let your reader know that that was how your character is? So let's take a look at this section of a draft, okay? This is just a part of a story. It says, Rex was the star quarterback of the 6th grade football team. He could kick faster and farther than anyone else on the team. And he was big too, and no one could push him over. He could just catch the ball and plow through to the end line without interference. With Rex on the team, no one else ever got to play that position. I think you should give someone else a chance to play quarterback, Rex, said his friend. Rex had lots and lots of friends, and also he was real good at school, so his teachers all liked him best too. Okay, said Rex, because he was really nice too. Well, let's just think about Rex for a second. Everyone take a minute and think about Rex. When I read that, Rex seems like the best person ever, right? Like he is star quarterback. He's super nice. He has all the friends. His teachers love him. He can't do anything wrong. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know a single person like that. I can't relate to that for sure because I am not that perfect person. I want a character that I can relate to, or even if it's obviously I'm not a star quarterback, but maybe there's a personality trait in there that I want to feel like I can relate to, or just that this person is human. This doesn't even sound like a real person. So we need to take a step back. This character, Rex, is cardboard. And so if I'm reading this, I want to go back and revise and find a way that I can make this character seem a little bit more real life. It's got to have some negative. Now, I'm not saying that he can't be the star quarterback and that he can't be really good at football and he can't have lots and lots of friends, but there's got to be something about him. These are your characters, so I can't tell you what to do to your characters, but when I'm looking at this, just thinking a way that maybe if it was my paper, how I could revise it, one way might be to start when Rex says okay down here, even though he's really nice, maybe I'll put something about here with Rex saying like that, okay, said Rex, even though this hurt him inside, or even though he didn't want to do this, something to show that maybe he said okay because he's really nice, but even though he didn't really want to give up that position, right? He didn't want someone else to do it. So even though to the outside he still seems perfect, I'm still showing my reader that he is not just this perfect cookie cutter character. So that's just one way that I could revise that. I'm sure you guys could come up with other ways that you could revise this. Maybe he was too big. Maybe I can just change some of this wording around. I also want to just point out that when you're revising, guys, your draft is going to get messy. You're going to have lines coming here, there, crossing out this, adding in here, parts that need to go right here, all the way on this page. That's okay. Your draft is supposed to be messy, so don't get stressed about that. Don't say, well, I need to fix this part, but I can't because I don't have any room. That should never be an excuse why you can't go back and add something in, because your draft does not need to look nice and neat. Okay, so that's kind of an example of a cookie cutter, too good cardboard character, and we need to go back and revise. And like I said, you probably already have those internal and external traits, and you've come up with some of those negative traits. So just make sure that you've conveyed that to your reader. You have it in your head, but we're not in your head when we're reading your paper. So if Rex is saying okay because he's really nice, but inside he's not super happy about this, I need to make sure my reader knows that by adding in kind of that detail right there. Okay, so that's one way that I could revise this. When I'm looking at this section, I'm also reminded of the craft part of my rubric. And the first one right here, I showed why characters did what they did by including their thinking. That kind of goes along with what I was saying we could add in here. He says okay because he's really nice, but then I could go in and tell a little bit more about what he's really thinking inside. But this, although not having to do with the cardboard character so much, this part kind of spoke to me here. I was thinking as I was reading this, this part of the rubric says, I included precise and sometimes sensory details and used figurative language to bring my story to life. I was just thinking, if we're trying to portray Rex as this larger than life, really great football player, what a great place to maybe go back and revise this paragraph up here and see if there's a way that I can use some figurative language to talk about just how great he is. He could kick faster and farther than anyone else on the team. Well, well, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and add in there maybe some kind of figurative language, maybe even a hyperbole and extreme exaggeration about just how far he could kick that football. He was so big that no one could push him over. Again, maybe I could add in a little bit of figurative language. He is tough as nails. You guys are way more creative than that. You guys could come up with other things, but that just kind of spoke to me right here where I was reading this paragraph. Not only did I want to revise it for the character, but then I thought about this part of my rubric here where I could add in some of my figurative language. So as you're revising today, for all of your characters, and you're making sure your characters aren't cookie cutters, I want you to think about also revising it just to make it better. If there's places where you can just show more than do telling, so just add that. Fix your paper any way that you see fit. So although you're revising your paper today, that is what you're doing. You are rereading your paper and you are revising it through a cardboard character lens. It's okay to revise for other things while you're doing that as well. It's okay for your writing to be messy. So go ahead, get started. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Bye.